So good to have you join us today. I'm Lee Jae-yong in Seoul. Coming up on today's edition of Business Daily. Samsung's third quarter profits plunge after its mobile division took a beating from the Galaxy Note 7 recall, while shareholders back heir apparent Lee Jae-yong as a board member. Chinese companies are investing big in overseas markets, but an increasing number of red flags are going up in some countries on jitters about the massive capital influx. We have these stories and more coming right up. Samsung Electronics saw earnings tumble in the third quarter after its global recall of the fire-prone Galaxy Note 7. But its performance is still in line with expectations, and the tech giant's shares closed slightly up. Our Hwang Ho-jun has the numbers.
Samsung Electronics has released its third quarter earnings, and the numbers don't look pretty. In its regulatory filing, the world's number one smartphone maker said operating profit stood at 5.2 trillion won, or nearly $4.6 billion for the July to September period. That's down 29.7% from a year ago, but in line with its revised guidance. Total sales came in at $42 billion, down more than 7.5% from the same period last year. The figures are the lowest since the fourth quarter of 2014 and the second quarter of 2015. Killing off the ill-fated Galaxy Note 7 caused serious damage to Samsung's mobile division, the main driver of the company's overall sales and profits. The division posted a sales drop of 15.3%. And while it saw more than $2 billion in profit this time last year, this year it stands at a relatively paltry $88 million. What helped uphold the division's performance was the stable sales of existing flagship devices, including the Galaxy S7 and S7 Edge. Despite the damage done by the Note 7 debacle, experts say the outcome could have been much worse.
Because of the improved operating profit from the chips, consumer electronics, and display divisions, Samsung was still able to make a profit of $4.6 billion.
Samsung says it anticipates a turnaround with the launch of new flagship smartphones in 2017, but it is still unclear how long it will take to fully rebound to its former status. Hwang Ho-jun, Business Daily.
And staying with Samsung, amid its struggles as widely anticipated that is, the Korean tech giant has given Lee Jae-yong a seat on its board of directors, a major step towards him controlling the family-run conglomerate. Our Kim Min-ji has this report.
In a move seen as further laying the groundwork for a leadership succession, shareholders of Samsung Electronics on Thursday approved heir apparent Lee Jae-yong's entry to the company's board of directors. Lee, currently the tech giant's vice chairman, joined Samsung in 1991. His acceptance means that for the first time in almost a decade, that a founding family member is back on the board. With that, Lee Jae-yong will now be able to more actively participate in Samsung's business decision-making and assume responsibility. This is expected to pave the way for a so-called new Samsung under the young Lee, who has been filling in for his father and Samsung chairman Lee Kun-hee.
Now that the nomination has been approved, Lee's responsibility will be put in the spotlight. If a certain decision is made and the outcome is good, it will add to Lee's achievements. If something goes wrong, he will have to take the responsibility. While being a board member, he'll have to build up his profile before he's given the title of CEO.
Lee's first task will be to steer the company through the Galaxy Note 7 debacle and repair Samsung's brand image. Much focus will also be on whether he will work to reshape the group's governance structure. On top of these challenges, U.S. activist hedge fund Elliott Management has been calling on Samsung Electronics to split into two publicly listed firms, a holding company and an operating company, as well as pay a special dividend to remedy the company's inefficient capital structure.
While Samsung may eventually move toward shareholder-friendly policies, the first task is to restore consumer confidence. The Galaxy S8 will determine this, which is why it's under pressure to come up with an innovative product while also upgrading its safety. It's important for the heir apparent to show that he can take responsibility in dealing with this.
Experts add that down the line, Lee will also have to prove how his management style and vision differ from his father's to build up a prominent image that's of his own. Kim Min-ji, Business Daily.
Japanese shareholders of Lotte Group's de facto holding company have voted to keep the group's chairman Shin Dong-bin in his current post. Now, this comes as family members of Korea's fifth largest conglomerate were indicted on corruption charges by Korean prosecutors last week. Our Eunice Kim has more.
The chairman of Lotte Group, Shin Dong-bin, will continue to lead this scandal-hit retail giant after shareholders of Lotte Holdings, based in Tokyo, threw their vote of confidence behind him. On Wednesday, the embattled 61-year-old tycoon explained to his shareholders the background leading to his indictment but not physical detention by Korean prosecutors last week. Following the briefing, Lotte Holdings said without Shin present, shareholders took a vote, with the majority choosing to keep him in his current role. In light of the number of scandals that have emerged involving members of the group's founding family, they also agreed to form a compliance committee at the board level. One day earlier, Shin Dong-bin had publicly apologized and promised to institute reforms in Korea's fifth largest family-run conglomerate to restore its brand image, deeply dented by the corruption probes. He said preparations for a stalled multi-billion-dollar IPO of Hotel Lotte would resume, which could help lift some of the fog engulfing Lotte's complex web of ownership. Hotel Lotte, which also operates the brand's duty-free stores, had planned to be listed in June, but was pushed aside with the intensifying investigations by Korea's prosecutors. Lotte Group has also pledged to invest some $35 billion over the next 5 years on research and development as well as M&As. Eunice Kim, Business Daily.
The Korean government is gearing up to contain the country's overheated property market by rolling out a set of new measures. During an economic ministerial level meeting chaired by the Prime Minister and Finance Minister on Thursday, policymakers agreed on the need to cool the real estate, especially in the Seoul metropolitan area. Housing prices in parts of the capital have shot up, while growth in other areas has remained tepid. Designated anti-speculation zones, which would put a 5-year ban on the reconstruction of homes, is one of the policies expected to be included. The growing household debt burden, much of which comes from mortgages, has been a source of concern, with the total sum standing at a record $1.1 trillion as of the end of June. And the losses are piling up in the millions of dollars as Korea's railway strike pushes on, now on its 31st day. It's having an impact on the delivery of supplies. According to Korea's Cement Association, cement stock has dropped to the 20% level, costing the industry more than $26 million. This as some ready-mix concrete producers report their shipments to the Seoul capital region will be cut by 30%. National Railroad operator Korail, meanwhile, is claiming damages in court, saying its losses have now exceeded $35 million. The current train operation rate is at 83%, while only 45% of freight trains are in service. Air traffic in the skies above Korea surged in the third quarter. Korea's Land and Transport Ministry says air traffic jumped more than 15% on year. The ministry attributed the on-year increase to the base effect from the MERS outbreak last year and the summer vacation period that drove up the number of international flights. International flights spiked 23%, while domestic flights rose over 5.5%. The ministry adds the increase will likely to continue due to a new government policy that reduces delays by expanding the current two-direction single air routes to single-direction double air routes. China is investing heavily in foreign firms and property overseas, with more investment flowing out of the country than in. And although many countries are welcoming this development, there are also signs of resistance mounting in the U.S., Australia, and Europe. Let's take a closer look.
China's non-financial outbound direct investment, or ODI, jumped more than 50% from a year earlier to over $118 billion in the first 8 months of this year, according to the country's Commerce Ministry. Over the same period, inflowing foreign direct investment, or FDI, rose by a much slower 4.5% to the tune of $85.9 billion, making China a net capital exporter. Just last year, Chinese Premier Li Keqiang announced that Beijing will invest over $1 trillion overseas over the next 5 years to spur growth and provide more opportunities for other countries. China has encouraged its companies to invest overseas and acquire new technologies to compete, easing restrictions on outbound capital for approved deals. But seeing the remarkable speed of expansion in China's outbound direct investment, experts have pointed to overheated competition and concerns about national security. Some countries have stepped up regulations recently to curb massive investment by Chinese firms. So how should Korea prepare and respond to China's ODI boom?
And to tell us more about what we can expect from this, Professor Kim Se-won from Ewha Women's University joins us in the studio today. So good to see you.
Pleasure to be here.
All right, so what is really driving China's overseas investment boom?
Well, there are two fundamental reasons for China's active foreign direct investment. The first is they want to catch up developed countries faster by acquiring advanced companies and their technologies. And second reason is their huge foreign reserve size, which is $3.3 trillion.
Wow.
And that is more than twice larger than Korean GDP. And they recognize that they can't keep that huge size of the US dollars inside the China. So Chinese government is encouraging foreign investment.
Now tell us more about the areas that these Chinese companies are investing in. And I mean, real estate market, overseas real estate market, as well as cross-border M&A deals come to my mind, but other things?
Well, Chinese investment area, foreign investment area is related to their investment style, actually. They don't get qualified with high price tags because they are financed by $3.3 trillion.
Oh, wow.
So they are participants of all major deals of corporations, M&As, and real estate that deals in all big cities in the world. So in the case of the Ambang Insurance purchase of the Starwood hotel chain, like at the early of this year, the price was $14 billion. And when one of the Chinese chemical public companies wanted to purchase seed company, which is the largest from Switzerland.
Wow.
That price was $44 billion.
And like we heard in the report, we're also seeing signs of resistance in some countries, causing a growing number of Chinese deals and projects to be dropped.
Right. There has been growing concern about the Chinese very active, actually aggressive foreign direct investment between US and Europe and Australia. So European governments and US governments are more cautious in giving out the permissions on Chinese-related M&As. The previous Ambang's attempts to purchase Starwood hotel chain, which is the largest and the mother company of the Sheraton and Westin, was dropped by US government.
Oh, okay.
And the previous attempt to purchase a largest seed company from Switzerland was about to drop by European governments.
Now, I think Chinese companies are investing quite heavily in the foreign real estate market, but there are also concerns that this could lead to a gigantic global housing bubble.
That's true. By reinterpreting what you said, we can say that China is exporting domestic housing market bubble to foreign countries. Actually, as of now, there is a huge boom in Chinese housing market. We just talked about the Seoul metropolitan area's housing market boom, but Gangnam district's housing market price increase was 8% in the last year. But Shanghai's price increase was 31%.
Wow, 31.
And yes, and Beijing was 24%, and Shenzhen, which is very close to Hong Kong, is 40%.
Wow.
So because of that, Chinese local government gave us such a strict restrictions on purchasing new houses in China. So therefore, Chinese companies and Chinese people are rushing to foreign countries and foreign major cities to purchase real estate.
So you think this is going to spread
Exactly.
throughout the world?
Exactly.
All right. Well, I think another problem is, though, that countries around the world, including Korea, don't really have an alternative to
Right.
Chinese capital or trade. So what are your thoughts on this?
Well, it is true that Chinese foreign direct investment is increasing very quickly. But I believe that the impact of the Chinese investment is a little bit exaggerated by Western media. That's what we saw when Japanese are very active in foreign investment in 1980s and 70s. So U.S. government and U.S. media worried much about the Japanese rolling U.S. territory, and every single hotels in Waikiki Beach in Hawaii is owned by a Japanese. But even though that is partially true, we don't see that Chinese foreign investment wave continues further because Chinese foreign investment performance is not that good. They lost actually $250 billion in the last 10 years.
Okay.
So I'm kind of skeptical whether Chinese foreign investment, direct investment continues further.
All right. Well, then I guess thinking that this is going to continue for a while, then how can Korea use this boom in China's overseas investment boom to maximize benefits for the domestic economy?
Well, in today's globalized and internationalized economy, the ownership of the corporation and real estate is not that much important. Samsung is actually over 50% owned by foreigners, but we don't say Samsung is a foreign company. So, as I said, we have to use Chinese money in developing our economy and developing our corporations. But the problem with Chinese investment is carried out mostly by Chinese public companies, and they only maximize Chinese government's benefits. So, which is a mix of Chinese political interest and economic interest. So we have to pay attention on this respect.
All right. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you very much.
And that brings us to the end. But we'll be back tomorrow with more at the same time, same place for your Business Daily. So don't forget to tune in then. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye.